Welcome to the next section of this Excel 101 course. During this section, we're going to talk about taking our simple little spreadsheet here, something that's a bunch of numbers and text, and turning it into something much more graphical. We're going to talk about charts. Now, I'm going to take you through a couple different types of charts. The first one that we're going to see right here is the more common type of chart, a very popular type of chart, called a clustered column chart. Later on, we're going to take a look at working with pie charts. Just really quickly, I want to be able to compare and contrast between these two different extremes of charts. So first, a clustered column, perhaps my favorite of all the different charts. It's a very versatile chart and can handle larger amounts of data. Take a look. This is how you create a chart within Microsoft Excel. So my first step, I want to be able to take my little spreadsheet, and I'm still using the same sample file that we've been creating all the way up to this point. I want to take this and make it more graphical. At a glance, the whole purpose here of creating a chart, I want my users, at a glance, to be able to relate to the data and more easily compare. Perhaps compare different months to one another or different bills to each other. Where did I spend the most? Which month did I spend the most in? Well, if this is simple little bars, just with different heights in the bars, it's going to be much easier to capture and identify that data, as opposed to throwing out a bunch of numbers at my audience. Okay. So my first step, I've got to highlight the data that I want to chart. So in my case, the first go around, I'm going to select from A3 down to D8. I'm going to get my bills and my 3 months worth of bill amounts, and that's it. Once I have that data selected, I'm then going to go up to my Insert tab, top of my screen. I'm going to go about halfway through and I got charts. I'm going to grab the column chart here, and I'm going to get the first one, the 2D clustered column chart. I'll select that, and I've now got this fancy little chart that took those numbers, just that raw text in the background, and created something much more impactful and accessible. At a glance, what do you think? What's drawing your attention? What assumptions can you make here just by looking at these different bars? Well, right away for me, I'm looking at it and thinking, holy cow, those big blue bars are blowing everything else away. What is that? Oh, that's rent, that's right. That's 60% of my income going to rent, just right? So it's drawing my attention. I can see those orange and blue ones. Wow, those are pretty low. What are those all about? Well, that's my phone and gas. Well, and again, at a glance, I can start to make these snap judgments and really start to compare information. So a much more graphical approach to our data. Now my chart is pretty big and it's covering up my data right now. So I'm going to move it, just left click someplace empty and drag it down below. Place this down below my data here. So now on one worksheet, I've got the raw spreadsheet and I've got the chart right there. And I also want to point out that the data and the chart are connected. So if something inside my data changes, and just to illustrate this, let's say I change January rent from $1,200 to $2,500. I don't know why, whatever. But I'll make that change, hit my enter key, updates my spreadsheet, but it also updated my chart. So they are connected to one another, very dynamic. Let's change that back. I'll go back to 1200 here, hit my enter key. All right, and I'm back to normal. So creating a chart, really simple. Just highlight the data that you want to chart. In this case, I grabbed A3 to D8, insert, pick a chart. Now I want to point out some charts are better suited for larger amounts of data, some are better suited for smaller amounts. So I want you to try this. You can do a clustered column, that's what I'm going to run with here for demonstration purposes, but if you want to pick something else, try it out, feel free, maybe try out a couple. Grab your data, pick a chart, grab the data again, pick a different chart, just to compare and contrast and see the difference on how the charts behave with your data. Try it out, build yourself a simple little chart to really illustrate visually what your data looks like. Now I mentioned several videos ago, way back when we were talking about the Excel interface, we were talking about the ribbon. The standard ribbon, you got home, insert, page layout, and so on. But the ribbon is very dynamic. For example, if I select my chart, just clicking someplace empty down there, I've now got two new tabs at the top of my screen, Design and Format. And I think I double clicked on there, so it gave me this Format chart area. I'm going to close that. We don't need that right now. So just selecting the chart, two new tabs. From the two new tabs, this is my Chart Tools ribbon. I've got some design options that I can get into. I've got some formatting options. This is where you'll find all of the features that deal with your chart. Now I want to show off a couple of them here, a couple of the features, and we'll talk about a few others as we continue through this discussion of charts. Now first off, I've got a chart title. And right now all it says is chart title. That's not very descriptive. This should say monthly budget. So I'm just going to click where it says chart title. I'll go into there, highlight that text, and I'm just going to call this monthly budget. Now the chart title was given to me by default. The chart title itself is actually a chart option. It's something you can turn on and off. And if with my chart selected, I'll go back to the design tab, and inside of here I do have some options to change the way my chart looks, to change the way my title looks, as well as other operations. But talking about just the title all by itself, with the chart selected, specific to 2013, I can go to the little plus sign. Inside of here I'll find all sorts of elements of the chart. One of them is chart title. I can go into there and I can tell it where to show up, whether it's above the chart or centered over the top of the chart, or I can get into some additional options. Now for me, I like it above the chart, so I'm going to leave it as is. For those of you that are watching this that are still on 2010 or earlier, you don't get the little plus sign. What you get is an additional tab up here at the top of the screen called Layout. If you click on the Layout tab, you'll find something very similar to the plus sign. You'll see chart elements with all the options. Chart title, data access, data chart, and so on. You'll find it all right there. So same little setup, just found on the Layout tab rather than the plus sign. Now something else you can do, whether it's on the Layout tab or in the plus sign, deals with the legend. I like the legend, I want to keep it out there, but I don't like it at the bottom. I want to put it at the top. Typically when I read a chart, it's kind of top to bottom. So I want to start at the top, see the legend, and then see the data. Something small, but I just like the flow better this way. So in the plus sign or the Layout tab, we'll find the legend. I'm going to go a little arrow here, and I'm going to tell it to put it at the top. So now I've got my legend there at the top of my chart. These are simple little changes, whether it's your title or the legend or some other feature, but we're trying to manipulate the chart to make it more accessible. It's a visual element, and the quicker the users can glance at the chart and recognize the data and make those business intelligent decisions based on what we're presenting, the better off we're going to be. So think about how you want to lay your chart out. What options do we want? There's a whole slew of stuff that you can mess around with here. I could spend an hour just talking about charts and all the features that are involved inside of a chart. But let's talk about just one more thing here. And this is something that I want to point out more because I want to show you that, you know what, even though you have all these features, you want to be careful about how much you add to the chart. Because once again, we don't want to make it too cluttered. And we still want to make it accessible and readable. Now, inside the plus sign or the Layout tab, whichever version you're on, I'm going to find data labels. Go to little plus or go to little arrow here, and I'm going to tell them to go into the outside end. So now I've got data labels that show up on my clustered column chart, and I like that, but it might be a little bit too much out there. We're going to discuss how we can maybe perhaps manipulate this and make the chart larger so it's not as cluttered in there. But once again, there's a lot of options that you can add through the ribbon or through the little plus sign based on whatever option or whatever version of Excel you have there. So try this out. Poke around, see what different options you have here. Poke around in the plus sign if you're in 2013 or 2016. If you're on 2010, hop up to the layout tab and you'll find some options there. So try manipulating your chart, adding some of these chart elements. Let's take a look at how you can manipulate the data source of your chart. You might recall when I first created this chart that's open in front of us right now, I started out by selecting my data. I selected from A3 down to D8, and then I went to Insert and I inserted a clustered column chart. Now, there may come a time when you decide that, you know what? I don't want all 3 months, or maybe I want to add the totals into my chart as well. So we need to change the source. Microsoft has made this super simple. Very little steps in order for us to manipulate the chart. You don't have to delete the chart and recreate it. Make one little change and you update the data source. So right now, my chart is plotting out all 3 months. But you know what? I like the 3 months and I've got it broken up by the bills, but I don't need March yet. All I need is January and February. So watch this. I'm going to go back up to the data up above. Actually, before that, I'm going to make sure my chart is selected. Just clicking someplace empty on the chart. It's selected. Now I'm going to go up to the data. This is pretty slick. You'll find some color-coded areas within your data source. You'll see this little orange area that's circling my bills, this little purple area grabbing my months, and this blue area that's grabbing the data source itself, all the numeric values. Now what I'm going to do is grab the lower right corner. If I can get to that, I'm just going to move this out of the way actually. Let's move that. It was just covering it up a little bit. So I'll grab my chart again, hop back up there, grab that lower right corner, and I'm just going to pull it in. Just left click and drag. So I've now eliminated March, and I've just got January and February data. And if I go back down to my chart, there it is, it's updated. I've got just my January and February data now. Oh, you know what? I don't want all the bills. I don't need rent and phone and credit cards. You know what? Maybe I just don't want rent. Let's do everything else. Rent kind of blows everybody out of the water. So once again, with the chart selected, I'll go back up. I'm going to grab the top of the box and I'll drag that down. Let's eliminate rent. So now I just got phone, credit cards, food, and gas. Scroll back down and my chart is updated. I no longer have rent in the mix. Simple little change. And look what that did for my values. It's much, much cleaner because I don't have that much of a scale anymore in there. Simple change. Select the chart, hop back up, and just manipulate the data source of your chart. Now I've got all 3 months back in there once again. Try this out. Select your chart, hop back up to your data source, find those color-coded areas, and just click and drag to rearrange the data source within your chart. Can't be any simpler than that. So the next thing I want to take a look at here dealing with charts is doing a little bit of formatting. I want to change colors. The default colors that you get out of your chart, they're great, but they're just the default colors. So I want to add a little bit of spice to this chart, really start to draw attention. Maybe rather than this big orange bar, I want a nice big red bar. This gray, kind of muted gray, let's turn that green. Let's change some formatting options here. So just like everything else that you do with a chart, the first thing you need to do is select the chart. So I'll select the chart. Up above, I get my Design and Format tab. Now I pointed out earlier that on the Design tab, you do get some chart styles. And these are just some canned formatting. If I just hover my mouse over the top of them, you'll see what it does to my chart there in the background. There's some pretty neat ones. I like this dark one, kind of glows, kind of a neon bar now. Ooh, that was a nice one. These are just canned, out of the box. You're in a pinch, you need to hurry up and create a chart and format it. You got styles that you can pick from. And there's some neat ones there. But if you want to get into the nitty gritty and really start to format it on your own, I'll go over to the Format tab. On the Format tab, you got all your formatting options. We were talking about formatting shapes earlier. A lot of this stuff is the same options. So let's see. I want to change the big orange one. I want to make it some form of red. So I'll select the big orange bar here, And notice that not only did the one data point in the series get selected, but all of them did. These are the credit card values. So with that selected, I'll go up to Format. I'm going to go into Shape Styles, and I'm going to change the shape fill. Let's go for this kind of darker red color. I like that. This gray, it's kind of muted. Let's grab that, go back to shape fill, and I'm going to make it green. There we go. Pops it a little bit more, a little more presentable, not as muted as a color, but it's a choice, right? It's a preference. The idea here is that you can format the chart. Let's try some more here. Let's see. I'm going to grab the chart grid, this kind of background here of my chart, and I want to make some changes to it. Well, once again, I'll go up to my Format tab. I've got my Shape Styles. Let's try adding a background to that. I'm going to make this kind of a gray color. I don't like just the full-on white, but you know what? That's maybe perhaps a little bit too gray. Let's lighten that up a little bit. So now it's not as strong as a contrast against a white background, but I've kind of muted it down a little bit just to give it a subtle gray background. Let's see, let's try something else out here with formatting. If I want to change the legend, right now my legend's pretty small. I want to increase the font size here. So if I click on my legend, I do have some word art styles here where I can change colors, but I want to change the font size and perhaps make them bold. Do you remember where we found those options earlier? They're on the Home tab. I go to Home and I got my font commands right there. So I'll bump up the size. Let's go to like 12 and let's make them bold. Get that legend to really stand out. And you know what? Let's make it's kind of competing with my title now. Let's make the title even bigger. Let's go 20 and I'll make that bold. Right? Looking pretty good. Okay? I can do the same thing with my numbers down below. I can select my axis, my Y or my X axis, and I can format those as well. Let's make my months. Let's make those bold. Let's grab the numbers here. Maybe I'll make those bold. Right? Just formatting this chart, making it more presentable. Okay? Whether you're using the Design tab with styles, you're just, again, in a pinch, you need to hurry up and format it, you got the canned styles you can use. Or you can go to your Format tab, and to your heart's content, you can format this thing any way that you want. Try this out. Format your chart. Again, don't get too wacky with it. You don't want to start distracting from a simple little message, but any way to enhance the message, format it. Get the audience, get their attention, draw them in, format it in such a way that it will make it more exciting and more presentable.
G'day, it's John Michaelis here, the Chief Inspirational Officer and founder at MyExcelOnline.com, and I hope that you enjoyed this video that we just showed you. If you did, then give it a thumbs up. It just lets us know to create more of the same Excel videos for you so you can get better at Excel. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get new Excel videos each and every week. And finally, we want you to join our flagship online Excel course. It's called the My Excel Online Academy, and you get all of our Excel courses. You get our Excel beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses. We go through over 500 Excel videos, which teach you formulas, macros, VBA, pivot tables, Power BI, Power Query, Power Pivot, charts, formatting, access, and much more, because we add new videos each and every month. You also can download all our Excel workbooks and keep so you can practice, and you also get a certificate of course completion. Plus, you're going to get 6 bonuses when you sign up to our Academy course. You get our dedicated teacher support. You get access to all our Excel webinars. You get quarterly live Q&As. You can join our private Facebook group. You also join our private Excel forum, and we're also going to mail out to you an exclusive Academy welcome pack. So if you want to get better at Excel and stand out from your peers and stand out from the crowd so you can get noticed by top management and receive the promotions and pay rises that you deserve, then click below in the description and join the My Excel Academy online course so you can get better at Excel today.